Welcome to the Fantasy Thinker. I am Jared Godamich, and this is episode number 4 of Comics versus Prose, featuring Assassin's Apprentice number 4, and of course comparing it to the chapters in the novel Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Um, you are seeing this pretty soon after number 3 because I had that shipping snafu with number 3. Number 4 came in right on time, and I was eager to dive right into it because I'm having a good time with this story, and I'm having a good time with these comics as they come out. And if you uh, if you have read this novel, I highly recommend getting the comics. They're a load of fun to see the interpretation. And so, even if you haven't read a novel, I still recommend getting the comics because they're well done and they're a lot of fun to read. So, we pick up right in the middle of chapter 4 in the book. And that, um, like I said, last issue, we that was a little change from how they were doing it previously with issue number 1 and 2, which was pretty much followed chapter 1 and chapter 2 straight through, and now this issue number 3 included chapter 3 and about half of chapter 4. And so we pick up right away with the middle of chapter 4 in here, where our hero here, Fitz, is introduced to his new mentor, Chade, even though he doesn't know it right away, but that's what he becomes. And this is a pivotal moment in the novel here because Chade is the one who's teaching him basically to become an assassin, which is what the book is titled. So uh, we get to Chade right away, and we're introduced to him. He says follow, and the it's interesting because right on page 1 here, I'm hopefully going to have that. I usually have page 1 right up there, so hopefully that'll be right there, and you can see that in the panels, the boy gets up, he's grabbing his stuff, and then you see the little clatter in the background with the boots. In the book, it's a little bit more explained about why you see that clatter of the boots. He dropped them, and but you can kind of figure that out from the artwork. You just have to really look at it and do a little thinking. The book just flat out tells you exactly what's going on. So the comic involves a little bit more active viewership of the panels. You should really take the time to study these panels and see exactly what's going on, um, because there's a lot of explaining um, in the novel that in the comics, the artist is doing a great job of just showing you pictures, showing you mood, showing you lighting. The lighting's mentioned in the book, and the lighting in the comic is just shown, and he's interpreting it very well. The artist is Ryan Kelly, and he's interpreting it very well. As per usual, the dialogue is pretty much taken straight from the book as we go through our panels, and it's spaced out beautifully so that you can easily follow the dialogue with the story and with the panels as the panels draw your eye from one to the next. Um, so the crux of this first conversation is, of course, the master Chade, yeah, is basically telling him, I am going to teach you how to kill people. Do you agree to this? Do you agree that you will be educated, and I'll give you my word and all that stuff. And so what Chade does here is bring out in Fitz the ability to speak his mind, to raise objections, and that's very well portrayed in the comic as well as in the novel. There is a lot of, like I said, a lot of description in the novel that the artist tries to portray, because we go through several pages of description in the book, and it's all just done simply in pictures if you're really paying attention. Um, and so this, there's a lot of exposition here, even in the dialogue. There's a lot of explanation going back and forth with their viewpoints, and mainly Chade's viewpoints on what his job is, and explaining to Fitz how things are going to go. And the key is how he can't tell anybody. Um, so he's gives him a whole bunch of chores to do, little tasks to do to hone his skills and get better at sneaking around and listening, and really taking stock of a room and what's going on in that room, giving details. um Burek notices that Fitz is like a little bit late sometimes. And so that's all really good storytelling, and it's told expertly in the panels of the comics as well as in here. A lot of the art is just really expresses what is explained in the book. So a lot of pages go by here. One thing that in the comic is uh, Chade gives Fitz a copper bracelet, and also introduces him to his pet ferret. I think it's a ferret, yeah. And these are all done in single panels in the comic. So you're left a little bit more in the comic to imagine actually what is going on there and what's happening. I definitely didn't get the gist of everything that went into those two panels. When I read the book, I was like, okay, that's a lot more information than what I really gathered there. I could have conjectured, I could have tried to make something up. And so the comic's kind of inviting you to do that. But that's all well and good. I don't think it takes away or detracts from the story at all. It didn't detract from the story as I was reading the comic book. And when I read the novel, it was just like a little bit extra information. Whether this stuff comes into play later, we have yet to find out. But it's all good for now. So moving on in the book here, we get enough exposition between him and Burek's interaction, which is pretty well taken straight from the book, put onto the page. We get a little flashback of chivalry again, and it's done in that different tone. This time it's not read in the past like it used to be. It's more of it's not such a conflicting thing like red would indicate. So it's done more in a sepia tone. We get a picture of Prince Chivalry there, and he looks dashing as always. But uh, so that little hint of the past of what chivalry would look like, his father, and it's more of a calm recollection of the past that the comic books is giving to us. But it's all done in explanation in the book. We don't get a sense of what chivalry actually looks like in the novel. This is the artist's interpretation, which is pretty cool, that they give us that reminder. And so, um, then we get to a couple of pages in the comic of a lot of exposition and a lot of the stuff that Chade and Fitz were up to, which is explained in the first half of chapter 5 in the book. The chapter 5 is called Loyalties. And so you can see the theme of this issue of the comic coming forth. It's all about loyalty, and who is Fitz going to be loyal to? Is he going to be loyal to his new mentor, Jade, who is teaching him all this really useful and skill heavy stuff? Is he going to be loyal to Burek, who was basically his father figure for the past few years and who took care of him? Is he going to have loyalty to the king, who put him under that spell of sorts of that was like a charm or a gias, however you say that, that ensured his loyalty to the king, and then, or is he going to be loyal to have any loyalty at all towards this father he never knew, Prince Chivalry? So that is all themes brought up in this issue and in a book, expertly, of course, by Robin Hobb, and a couple of pages in the comics serves to use exposition to explain a lot of the activities that they're up to. And then we get to the main conflict of this issue, which is in a main conflict in chapter 5 so far, is Fitz believes that Jade, I'll have to figure out how to say that, ask him to do something that he does not want to do, that conflicts with the spell that the king has put him under, and and he refuses. He stands up for himself, but he is remonstrated. Jade sends him away. Boom, he goes to his room, and then we end on page 93, like right in the middle of chapter 5. So this issue of this comic covered about 21 pages in the book. Which was equivalent to like issue number 1 and 2. So issue number 3 actually covered a lot more pages than the other issues. But we end off right in the middle of the chapter. So I was like, you know how hard it is to stop reading this book in the middle of a chapter? I don't think you do, because none of you probably did that. But I'm sticking with my plan. So uh, come hell or high water. All right. So that is the comparison and the contrast of issue number 4 to the novels, chapter 4 and 5. Uh, half the half and half, right? So I hope you enjoyed that comparison. It will be a little bit longer for issue number 5, because they're not going to be back to back like that. So as soon as it's out, I'm going to order it. Hopefully, I'll get it fast, and I will do episode number 5. Please like and subscribe below, and let me know your thoughts. Have a good evening and be good to each other. Thank you.